kids, I want to share something really cool with you today. It's a beautiful Japanese art form called kintsugi. Here's how it works. First, you need broken pottery. That's right, broken. But then you repair it. Does that sound like art to you? Do you think broken pottery can ever be the same again? Even if you glue it together, you still see cracks and it won't hold water as well as it did before. That's true, except when doing kintsugi. You see, the artist puts the broken pieces together, not using glue, but gold. The gold pieces show in the cracks of the pottery actually make the broken vase or bowl or teapot even more beautiful and valuable. I want you to remember that today as we hear our Bible story about Peter. Remember him? He was a disciple who denied even knowing Jesus. After that, it was kind of like he was broken. What would happen to him? You'll find out as we hear today's story from John chapter 21, verses 1 through 17. A short time after Jesus rose from the dead, some of his disciples were fishing in a boat. That night, the disciples threw their nets into the water over and over, but every time they pulled them in, they were empty. No fish. Early the next morning, there was a man standing on the shore. He yelled to the disciples, "Did you catch anything?" The disciples yelled back, "No!" The man yelled back in response, "Put your nets on the other side of the boat." Now, the men had been fishing all night. They were tired, and it didn't make a whole lot of sense to put the net on the other side of the boat. Why would there be fish on one side and not the other? Surely, if there were fish to be caught, they would have caught some already. But they decided to follow the man's instructions. I mean, it couldn't hurt, right? The disciples threw their nets on the other side of the boat. They waited, and when they pulled their nets back up, they were heavy. They pulled and pulled, but the nets were so hard to bring back up because they were so full of fish. It was a miracle. One disciple, John, started thinking, wait a minute, only one man could perform a miracle like that. That's when he recognized who was standing on the shore. "It's Jesus!" he yelled to the other disciples. Another disciple, Peter, got so excited to hear that it was Jesus that he dove into the water and swam to Jesus. The other disciples followed behind him in the boat. When the dripping, wet Peter arrived to shore, Jesus asked Peter, "Do you love me?" Peter replied, "Yes, Lord, you know I love you." Jesus' response to Peter was, "Then feed my lambs." Then Jesus asked Peter a second time, "Do you love me?" And a second time Peter answered, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." "Then take care of my sheep," Jesus responded. A third time, Jesus asked Peter, "Do you love me?" Peter started to feel kinda bad. He was wondering why Jesus was asking him this same question over and over again. Was it because he had pretended not to know Jesus? So Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you." Jesus' response was simple. "Feed my sheep." This would be one of the last times the disciples ever saw Jesus. A few weeks later, Jesus lifted his hands and spoke words to his disciples. As he did, Jesus was taken up into heaven. Their time with Jesus was over. But the adventure was just beginning. Now they had to tell everyone about the good news of Jesus. Even though Peter denied Jesus and sinned against him, Jesus wasn't done with him. We have all sinned like Peter, but imagine if sin broke us like we were just broken pottery. Let's say a teapot. What use is there in a broken teapot? You can't put tea in a broken teapot. It wouldn't hold the tea anymore. It's useless. Some people would throw it away, but the artist doesn't see trash. He sees potential. He takes out his gold and melts it and starts filling in the cracks. The more pieces the teapot is broken into, the more gold he uses to fill in the cracks, and the more beautiful the teapot becomes. Jesus is like the artist. He wants to repair us and make us even better than before. Peter was broken, but Jesus, because of Peter's strong faith, put him back together and made him even better. He was giving Peter an even greater purpose. Remember all those times that Jesus said, "Feed my sheep"? He was telling Peter to tell others about him. In fact, he even called Peter a rock. That's actually where our new memory verse comes from. Matthew 16:18. "And I say also unto thee, that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it." Matthew 16:18. Jesus used Peter to start the first church. Isn't that amazing? The disciple who denied Jesus not once, not twice, but 3 times was made new and given a greater purpose. Jesus wants to do that for us as well. We have all sinned, but sin makes us broken. But Jesus wants to restore us. He can make us new, beautiful, valuable, and give us a greater purpose. Let God turn your mistakes into beauty when you turn from your sins and turn them over to Jesus. He can turn your life into a masterpiece.